Carrie Adams, and you're listening to Carrie's Connoisseurs, coming to you from Solid Gold Podcasts. Here we talk to the movers and shakers, the drinkers, the dreamers, and all the people who make it happen in the liquor and luxury industries from around the world. Well, welcome to Carrie's Connoisseurs, and today in my studio I am joined by James Ochse. He is the big major domo in the red wine cellar for the KWV. James, hi, thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Carrie. Thank you very much for letting me be here.
Well, it's seconds away round two. I have to concede in front of everybody that I made the biggest, fattest you-know-what up today, because we'd arranged this interview and then I got carried away on a Zoom call somewhere else and I stood James up. I'm so sorry. I'll publicly apologize to you. It's awful. I'm sorry. So thank you for coming back.
Thank you very much.
James, I tell you why I phoned you in the first place, because Gudrun Clark sent me an email maybe a week or two ago, about something that I think is quite fun. It's called Drink That Bottle of Wine Wednesday, or whatever it is. It's that bottle of wine that's in your cellar or in your cupboard or in the cupboard under the stairs or wherever it is you keep your wine. And every time you go in there, you sort of kick it around, or it's a special one. You keep thinking, I want to keep that for a special occasion or whatever. So some clever person has come up with an idea that says the 25th of February is called Drink That Bottle of Wine Day. So you guys turned it into Drink That Bottle of Rudeberg Wine Day, which is why I'm talking to, because you Mr. Rudeberg.
No, I have to say it's a great concept, and now it justifies all our other wine drinkers that normally drink on a Thursday night to actually drink another bottle.
I know. So now, you and I hope you got lots of time, because Rudeberg is such an interesting, fascinating part of the South African wine landscape, going right back to day dot. And when I was a little girl, I had cousins. They were the fancy, rich side of the family. We were the poverty-stricken Irish potato farmers. And they had a farm that they sold grapes to the KWV. And in return, they got what was called a quota in those days. And sometimes their quota was Rudeberg. And whilst it was never fabulous wine, and I'm just being dead honest because it wasn't, it was very interesting wine, but it became a cult wine because you couldn't get it, because the KWV exported it all around the world, didn't they?
Yeah, 26 countries in total exported back in the day.
So I've laid a sort of a little foundation. Tell us a bit more about the history of this cult status wine, because it is. I love it. And it turned 70, I think, last year, did it?
In 2019. So we're on 74
I remember
at the
they sent me a bottle, and there was a beautiful big celebration. It's an amazing brand. You take it away.
Gary, it's a heritage brand. Like we just said, it's 74 years at the moment, starting way back in 1949. And I have to say, to be a part of this majestic history is definitely a daunting thing. It's definitely exciting as well. But, taking it way back to the 1940s, where KWV produced two red wines, which actually was called Paul Light-Bodied Red Wine and Paul Full-Bodied Red Wine, where in growing with, as industry did, developed into, when Dr. Charles Niehaus took over in the 1940s.
And that's Charles Niehaus, not Carl Niehaus. We're just making it quite clear for everybody.
Yeah.
Dr. Charles Niehaus.
Yeah, Dr. Charles Niehaus. And, he came up with this brand called Rudeberg. And he's obviously from a small town in Germany called Rottenburg. And when he was looking at the Paarl Mountains, saw this beautiful sunset and called it the Red Mountain. And from that, kind of the Rudeberg was born, going back to the most simplistic way of thinking, where again there was two brands or two Rudeberg wines, one labeled number 1 and one labeled Rudeberg number 2. The number 1 wine was the light-bodied red wine, which was cab driven.
From memory, they made it out of Pontac, didn't they? Used to make Rudeberg was made out of Pontac.
Yeah. So the main varietals back then was Cab, Shiraz, Pontac, and a little bit of Cinsault. That was the cultivars they used back then.
That was it. Yeah.
And obviously, the second wine was Shiraz driven, and that was the Fuller Rudeberg wine.
Yeah, and I think that the Shiraz originally came from Mirandol, and
Yes.
I was doing a tasting with a gorgeous little boy from Mirandol. Who's, I can't remember his name now. I've got COVID brain. You have to remind me who's a little winemaker is there. And we were tasting through all the Mirandol wines, and I was reminded again, it's an old farm. It's like one of the oldest farms in the Cape. And I was tasting all that. The wine is delicious. It's juicy and berryful and sumptuous. And that Shiraz, and we spoke about Rudeberg at the time, and he said to me that the Mirandol used to supply Shiraz to the KWV for Rudeberg.
Yes, so that's also when the blend kind of took a different form.
Yeah.
When it started developing not only from Pontac and Cab to bringing in Shiraz to get that more bigger tannins, juicier fruit, where it evolved into a full cultivar blend.
And tell me, you haven't been the head red winemaker at Rudeberg at KWV for very long, have you?
No. So actually,
a year or bit.
A year and a bit, yeah. So it's I have to say, still learning a lot and fitting into the system. But I have to say, it is a honor to be here, and so many opportunities and really exciting stuff that's happening.
It's an amazing place. So explain to us who aren't in the know, because the KWV was always quite a mysterious place for the rest of the people in the industry. We didn't know how it was all working. How is it all set out now? Do you head up all the red winemaking?
All the red winemaking in the big cellar, yes. So basically, we are divided almost in brand orientated. So we are 3 senior winemakers at the KWV, which we have Isel van Blair, that's the
I
Mentos
love
range.
Isel.
Yes.
We always talk, and she makes gorgeous wine.
Yes, so she heads up the Mentos range. Basically, I then handle the entire red cellar, so that is from the bigger Cathedral, Rudeberg, and all the brands going downwards.
That's a big job, James.
Yeah, so
Not such an easy job, that, hey?
So that's around about 7,000 tons in production in total, and around about, let's say, 8 million litres of production on a yearly.
It's a bit of a mind what's it, you don't even want to think about that. So now, does the KWV still own those vineyards, or do you lease vineyards? Do you manage the vineyards? How do you make it happen?
No, I just want to get to, my last colleague that I left out was Kobus van Merwe. And
Kobus, of course.
Yes, and he is in charge of the bubbles, the rosés, and the whites. So I have to say, we 3 work in quite a nice setup.
Yeah, it's nice.
We learn a lot from it, and we're quite a dynamic team as well.
Do you each have your own cellar?
Yes.
So you don't get in each other's way like now in the middle of harvest when you need a tank and she needs one and he needs one. So you each have your own one.
Luckily we do. We've got enough tanks, but there is 1 or 2 equipment that is normally a bottleneck, but then proper planning and normally gets us around that curve. It is
and
sometimes
who's making your brandy? Who's making the brandy?
Is then Pieter de Pot. He is our brandy master.
Peter de Pot?
Yes.
Peter de Pot still?
Yes. So I have to say, he is a magician down there, and really
is a magician.
Knows a lot what he's doing. But getting back to the vineyards, so at the moment we don't own any vineyards anymore. We lease them, and basically so contracts are written. So we've got long-term contracts and short-term contracts, really starting from Malmesbury all the way through to Bot River. Which is round about, like I said, in total we do a production of 13,600 tons, which is out of 5 different areas and around about 430 different vineyard sites.
So tell me quickly for my listeners, if we start in Malmesbury,
yes,
or start wherever you like, and tell us what grapes are coming from which area that you're looking after in the red wine cellar.
Well, like I said, our South Africans are definitely a dynamic bunch. The reason is why I'm leading with that is we believe in one area we have the best Shiraz and right next to it the best Cab. So literally we have quite a dynamic portfolio in all the areas. From Malmesbury, we dominate in the Swartland region with the Shiraz, Cabs,
Do you? I'm sure you do.
Yes.
Some of those beautiful old Shiraz vines, hey?
Yes.
They're all gnarled and old and bony, and they just give the most delicious grapes.
And then definitely we've got some weird and wonderful cultivars as well out there, like Tanat and Petit Shira, which is also from that region, and some Malbec.
Are you using those in blends, hey?
Yes.
You don't produce, although I think Isabel made a Petit
She has a
Verdot
Petit Verdot from the Stellenbosch
in the
region.
Mentors.
Yes, and
Yeah.
then we have also a Petit Verdot in the Classic range that we also do. Which last year got best strange cultivar at Michelangelo for a reasonably
Yes.
priced wine, which is quite nice.
And tell me, Tanat, because we all... Am I correct in saying that Chateau Mouzard is Tanat?
It is
One of the it is, hey. That's
Yeah.
the first time I think I ever tasted Tanat came from Chateau Mouzard, which for everybody else is in Lebanon or somewhere that we shouldn't be, Yemen. I don't know where those things are coming from, but Chateau Mouzard is famous. And I wondered, because our geography is not dissimilar to that of where the Tanat comes from in the
Yes.
Middle East. It's hot and it's dry, and I'm sure that's what the Swartland's for.
Yes.
I haven't tasted your Tanat. Do you make a single cultivar or do you blend it?
Fortunately, we blend it. We use it as a blending tool. But I have to say, if we would definitely do a odd cultivar, that would be my next one on the list.
It's interesting and delicious, hey?
Yes, it has got the most amazing, I want to say, acid backbone, which is just a natural acid that it produces. It's got this nice raspberry, mulberry fruit that comes out of
I
it.
know.
No, really a nice
When
one
we
to
were
work
little,
with.
there used to be a cold drink. There used to be like a cordial called Rabina or Fortress. I don't think you kids even know that such a thing happened back
Unfortunately,
then.
not
But there was
myself.
a thing called Rabina. Tastes just like Tanat. It's
Yes.
gorgeous. It's like raspberries and strawberry concentrated. It's like cassis, but it's raspberries.
Yes.
That's what Tanat's like.
So
Gorgeous.
Yeah, that's on that part of the region. Then we move to the Stellenbosch region, where we have the most beautiful cabs and merlots. Your more, I want to say, Bordeaux style cultivars coming out of Stellenbosch. It just gives it that lovely tannin and backbone. And then moving on to obviously the back of Paul, Wellington, which is almost a shift between, I want to say, Rhone style and Bordeaux. I want to say the Rhone styles are much more dominant in that region. We even have some
Yeah.
Cinsaults, Tempranillo coming out of that region. So really something of everything that we pick up these different areas, and then to end off Bot River, we have cool climate Shiraz and cabs coming from the region.
So, Cinsault, has the KWV got a straight up Cinsault?
Yes, but it's unfortunately something that we export.
Oh man, go away. Keep some at home for us.
We are trying. I have to say, the seller this year has put out a project that we'll try and make some fancy Cinsault and then market it and see what happens.
I'm loving some of those Cinsauts. And I tell you what you do make, although it's not yours. It's white.
Oh, yes.
But that Grenache, you make a Grenache Blanc, which
Yes.
I think must come from the Swartland region as well. Which, if anybody listening hasn't tasted it, they need to rush out, which is why I want to taste your Cinsault, because I'm sure it's just as nice. Those Rhone varietals are doing so well in South Africa.
No,
I think they
have to
just really are shining.
if I can comment my colleague Quibus again, he really makes a great Grenache Blanc. I'm going to say the
No, he
Mentos
does.
range and
Best
the
in the
Classic
country.
range. Yeah. Oh, it's something magnificent.
The KWV had to sort of drag itself back from a rather motley past, through no fault of its own. It was just one of the nationalist government's babies. So I don't make any apology for it, and I don't think we do need to make apology for it, because it produced fabulous wine, and it did pave the way. Whilst it prohibited everybody else from exporting their wine, there weren't that many winemakers at that stage of the game. There weren't that many private farms. And the KWV was the government's, just for everybody else's edification, was the government's arm or conduit through which to export South African wine. And it was really only the KWV that exported wine out of South Africa, and Rudeberg was a very, very big part of that export.
Yes.
I think at one stage, Rudeberg counted for 1 in every 5 bottles of wine that left this country.
Yeah, we
That's
almost
how
work
big
it
that
out on
export
a third of the volume.
Yeah, it was very big. So, like with everything, we all come to our senses, we all wake up, we wipe the sleep out of our eyes, and we think, this hasn't been a very inclusive industry, so now we need to make things better, and let's start polishing our reputations and our marbles. And I know that the KWV has done a lot to do that. More than anything, with the quality of the wine that they are producing. I honestly will put my head on a whatsit and say the KWV is producing some of the best wine in the country at the moment. It's fabulous wine.
Thank you very much, Kerry. And
So,
I want to say for the whole industry out there, the age is past where you can make bad wine. You have to put something good on the market, otherwise you're going to hurt your brands. And I want to say in today's world where a lot of creativity and everything is taken over, everyone is very passionate, and our industry is thriving at the moment via the quality that you have on shelf.
it is thriving at the moment, and you know, we are very, very fortunate in South Africa. We can still buy a fabulous quality wine for a very reasonable price. Everywhere else in the world, you've got to remortgage your house to buy a bottle of wine that is the sort of quality of what we're talking about, you know. So we're lucky. We're very, very lucky. Armed with all of that, we need, and that's what part of my mission is with my podcasts and my YouTube channel, is to encourage people to drink. That sounds terrible. I know I'm not. I'll rephrase it.
Good wine. Yes.
Good one. I shouldn't have had a break there. So everybody get out there and drink. Rudeberg is still well priced, hey, for what it is.
Yes.
What's the price of Rudeberg at this stage? It's around about 100 and something, hey?
It is. It depends where you shop, but it is around about anything from 98 Rand up until 120 in that bracket.
20 odd, yeah, that's about right. It's about 120. It's unbelievable value at 120 Rand a bottle. What's the current blend going into your Rudeberg?
So,
Minofmeer, it doesn't have to be.
So the current blend at the moment is the 2021 vintage, which is Shiraz and Cab driven, around about 35 to 34% each cultivar. And then we're running down on a Tanat, which is 8%, Merlot 6%, and Petit Shiraz, which is around about 10%, and then the rest is made up of other cultivars, which is 1, 2, 3%, which is a total of 6% in total.
And you're its dad. How long should we keep it before we break its virginity?
Well, I have to say that you can definitely keep it for 2 to 3 years without having any issues. But if I would invite you to my own house, I've only got 6 bottles of wine in my wine rack, because I'm one of those guys that kind of drinks every day of the week just to see that, just to check the quality. I'm a very nosy person.
Top the level up. So you haven't, what have you got for drink that bottle of wine night on the 25th? You haven't got that bottle of wine because you drank it already.
Well, I've got one left, and that's actually a bottle when I was making wine overseas that has been lying there. And I have to say, for this special occasion, I'll be definitely opening the bottle. It's a 2013 Cabernet Sauvignon from Stag's Leap Wine Cellar in Napa Valley.
Oh my gosh, I was going to ask you about Napa. When we finished with Rudeberg and Cab and fancy KWV, and wish you the best, because I think you're going to make a wonderful, wonderful difference at the KWV. Who was I talking to the other day, Brennan? Rulof Lotrit.
Yes.
At Delheim. And I just love all you boys. You all the same sort of generation, and you are brave, and you're pushing boundaries, and you, as you say, you're making no excuses for dirty, filthy, TCA-infested, bretty, unhealthy cellars and unhealthy vineyards. There's no excuse for that anymore. We can't have that.
I have to say, it's actually so funny that you use his name, because when he was a student, I was still second year, and actually helped out at his vintage cellar when he first started out. So we actually came a long way as well.
You?
Yeah.
No, he's a gorgeous boy. You're all gorgeous, and you're just loving your jobs. the wine industry is fun, and it's filled with intelligent, hardworking, ambitious, good people. And I think that's the sort of message that we have to send out to the whole of South Africa and the whole of the world, that we really do compete on an international scale. Our wines are right up there with the best. And half the reason that they are is why? Because we've got a very well-educated clan of young winemakers. So education for me is just... We had a grandpa, Scottish grandpa, and his motto was no more. And that wasn't N-O more, it was K-N-O more. It was no more, just no more than everyone else.
That's actually great.
So James the man, born and bred where? In the Cape?
Yes, in the Cape, in the northern suburbs, Panorama, Welgelegen, in those areas.
Okay. Went to Stellies.
Yes.
Did your
Did my
viticulture and enology.
Yes, at Stellenbosch, 4 years. Obviously, enjoyed the university life a lot. I have to say, my
Enjoyed
parents,
the 6 wines on the rack, I think.
well, you can comment my mom on this, but always, if we had a phone call, she would say, "Listen, I know your 2 main subjects are sport and socialism." Or
Socializing.
socializing, sorry. But please, just give some attention to the course as well.
I have a son that did the same. He also went to university in Cape Town. I was in Johannesburg, and the phone used to ring at 2 o'clock in the morning, but it wasn't him. It was the police saying, "Mrs. Adams, we've got your son drunk op straat," whatever he was. It was terrible. It's torture. Your children are gonna do the same to you. You watch. So you left Stellies, and did you go traveling directly once you'd graduated? Did you go to Napa, or you went to New Zealand?
Yeah, so actually I was in between of doing a master's degree or starting to go into the work life, and when speaking to a couple of the legends in the industry at that time, they told me that, "Listen, you can always come back and study, but go out and get experience. Go out overseas, go out and do harvests, and when you come back, you can always look at that again, but nothing beats experience." So in that sense, I went straight out of the gate. Actually, my first job was in Ashton Cellars. Started working there under Sterk de Vet, which is also an old KWV production master.
Producing huge amounts of wine as well.
Yes,
learning how to make good big volumes.
And then from there, hopped to New Zealand. Basically, so I completed mid-harvest, then flew over to New Zealand, had a 1 weekend off, started in Marlborough at Benham, started the vintage there, and then had 2 months off after that, and then popped over to Napa and started working at Stag's Leap Winery. So I completed 3 vintages in 1 year.
How did you get a job at Stag's Leap?
So basically...
Were you sleeping with the owner's daughter or something?
No, nothing like that. So
you're going red.
So luckily, my roommate that lived with me in New Zealand, he actually just came from a vintage from there, and I told him, "Well, please hook me up." And then via him, he was a German. Yeah, we said yes, no, anytime, and went off, without any hiccups.
Just for everybody listening to us, Stag's Leap is like the quintessential Napa farm. You dream, you pray to those bottles, you dream of visiting there. I mean, that is just one of the most amazing bits of experience you could ever have had.
Yeah, no, definitely. I really enjoyed my time there, and they saw quite a lot of potential in me, because I was quite soon the night shift manager on shift for the vintage. So really,
did they not tell you that night shift was given to the people they didn't like?
They started out like, okay, now it's going to be a rotation job. We're each going to get 2 weeks. And then after the first week, they said, "Wow, you're doing good, so can we just keep you there?" It's like, "Oh, well, yeah." And they said, "We'll bump the pay." And I was like, "Oh, no, that's good." So definitely.
That's perfect. And tell me, Stag's Leap, what did you make at Stag's Leap? Cab?
Yes, predominantly cab. Obviously, on the white side, there were Chardonnays, Viogniers.
I'm so jealous.
There was also Petit Shiraz. There was Malbec, like I said, we mentioned cab. A lot of the...
And is the estate beautiful?
Oh, it was really something to...
Napa is extraordinarily, it's exceptional.
For me, just the barrel caves, the endless rows of barrels going into underground cellars was really something to see. So I really enjoyed it. And yeah,
You know, when I was studying, I was very rude about the wine that was coming out of Napa. It was quite big and bold and brash and very sort of Trumpish, you know. It was a braggart. Everything that came out of Napa was bigger than everything else and better than everything else. And I thought they were a little bit crass and a little bit clumsy, some of them, but that's a long time ago. I mean, you can see I'm old. So up until about 20 years ago, I didn't pay much attention to them or Australia. I wasn't mad about the Australian wines. And Napa showed promise, but it was big and clumsy.
Big wines. Yeah.
Now, honestly, I can't wait to go. I really am dying. It's on my bucket list. I want to go and spend 6 months in Napa.
Take me along.
I'll take you, Jamesy. I'll take you. If we can stay at Stag's Leap for a bit.
Yeah, but then...
So how long were you there for?
Around about a year and a half, plus minus. So after...
Then you got homesick.
Well, actually, no. I was on my way to Australia, to Perth, because now I was part of the Treasury Group, and to do a vintage at Devil's Lair in Marine River, starting to learn of, again, Chardonnays and some Pinot Noirs, which I obviously did magnificently. And the wrong advice on a visa ended up myself not being able to go on the day I should have.
You see, God moves in a mysterious way.
Yeah, so flights, everything was booked. The flight departure was around about 12 o'clock, and 9 o'clock that morning I got my visa back denied, saying it wasn't a student visa. I was going to earn money, and on that grounds they said, no, sorry. I was like, oh. So I was quite devastated. This was obviously in second week of January. Haven't lined up any other vintages, and I had to spark and to see what I could get. And luckily, at the end, it kind of worked out well, because I ended up at Flagstone underneath Gerard Swart. And
Flagstone, my Brucey Jack.
Yes, Bruce
gorgeous
was also still
man.
there.
Gorgeous man.
So obviously,
lovely wine.
Ended up with them and also learned loads, and really learned loads from them, and enjoyed it.
And then you went to Stellenbosch Hills?
No, then actually via just did the vintage there, and ended up, I was actually on my way to Bordeaux to go work under André Lurton, because I really wanted to view Bordeaux, and then the opportunity came to a distil position opened up at Aramtas under Zonnebloem. And by
another magnificent, iconic brand.
Yeah, so my friend said, listen, there's a position opening up for assistant red wine maker back then. And I said, well, the date already closed, so it's not going to help by applying. And he said, just apply for the thing, just get the CV in. And long story short, ended up, got the job. And because it was my first permanent job, I unfortunately said, listen, I can't go to Bordeaux because I've got a permanent job, and I'm going to apply for a Kliksklad immediately. I'm tired of living out of a bag.
I know.
So yeah, then started working at Distel Aramtas, and again, working at one of the big corporates really gives you a whole different perception of the industry and the diversity. What happens there.
Such good experience for any winemaker.
Yes, and then did my time there, and then moved over to Stellenbosch Hills. Which in that sense also worked under Pierre Slabbert and learned a lot from him. I have to say we're still very good mates. He's quite a great role model. Obviously started working a lot with my hands.
How did he replace you, Jamesy? Well, who did he replace you with?
He got a very competent winemaker called Charles Meyberg. Lovely guy, very soft-hearted. And I think the relationship between them will definitely soar heights. And I have to say, between myself and Pierre, we made an awesome base to work off of.
Gorgeous one. Stellenbosch Hills, lovely one.
Yeah, so I have to say...
I'm very happy that you're doing what you're doing. If I were to say, please tell our listeners and our viewers, which bottle of wine from the KWV should they be drinking out of their cellar? Because we've all got one. We've all got one that's been lying in the cellar somewhere. What do you think is going to be nice?
Well, depending on age, obviously if you have anything Rudeberg connection from 85 up until 95, especially.
I think it'll still be drinking nicely.
Yes, in that bracket.
I
at the
have
moment.
got some.
I would open up one of them. It's going to be the tannins is going to be so silky smooth. There will be some fruit still. I have to say, I think that'll definitely be A1. But if we're looking something for at the moment, especially if you view my wine rack, you'll be.
I think a lot of my customers are like you, and I think that they're actually going to have to secretly slink into the liquor store and buy that bottle of wine because they've drunk all the others.
Yeah, so then we're looking at a 2018 to 2020 vintage. And we're staying in the Rudeberg topic. If you haven't had it yet, the Rudeberg Reserve, that would be an interesting bottle, or even the 1949, especially for this coming Thursday.
What's the difference between Rudeberg and Rudeberg Reserve?
So the Reserve is a more condensed, concentrated, smaller volume, which is a little bit more barrel aged, using only 300 litre French oak cask, where the normal Rudeberg Classic blend is a little bit bigger, has a small component of barrel in it, but a large component of stainless steel tanks, which is aged with staves or chips for the volume purpose. Also more, I'm going to say, area driven, coming from all the different areas that we take, where the Reserve is a little bit more only based out of 3 areas instead of the 5. And obviously the blend of cultivars is a little bit different. The Reserve is also cab shiraz.
And tell me, is it?
Yes.
Okay. And do you don't have to answer it, do you send all that Reserve overseas as well?
No, luckily we don't.
Just saying.
There is definitely available in South Africa at the Emporium here with us, and I think we sell it in Checkers as well.
I'm sure you do. I've seen Rudeberg. It does well in the supermarkets. If I were to say to you, in the last decade, your top tips for red vintages. Everybody always says to me, what should I buy if I want something to keep, or something that's old, or something that's nice? I don't advocate keeping South African wines for too long. I think that they probably all reach their best, for me, around about between 5 and 10 years max. But there are wines that you can obviously cellar, and I know that Johan Kricher would probably kill me if he heard me saying, don't keep Kanonkop for 20 years, but because you can. You can actually keep Kanonkop, and you can keep Ristenfried, and there are some that you can keep, but on balance. So if you're buying for drinking now, and we have a 10-year span, so let's say we're going back to 2012. Between 2012 and now, what's your favorite vintage, or what do you recommend for drinkers?
Well, I have to say my favorite would be at the moment anything between 2015 and 2017. I have to say, and that's also, like you mentioned, wines that can keep. Unfortunately, we also live in an age where you have to make wine for tomorrow and wine for to
instant gratification wine.
10 years.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, with today's technology and tools, we are getting there, and we can do it. Making wines for that's ready to drink now and to age for 10, 15 years. But I have to say, at the moment, for me, I'll do a 2015 or 2017 vintage. And if you're looking for something that's a little bit more fruit-driven, a 2019 vintage.
2019, because that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
For me, everybody shouted from the rooftops for 2015. And it was a good vintage. But there were some horrific wines that came out of 2015.
Yep.
What made 2015 so good?
Well, besides being the stigma of the odd number, we winemakers are very superstitious people when it comes to odd numbers and round numbers.
Because you spend half your lives drunk, that's why. You imagine, it's hallucinatory.
So obviously you would think the 23 vintage, we are super excited for this year.
And on that note, what is the 2023 vintage looking like? Tell us.
Well, the 23 vintage definitely has a lot of promise. We didn't have that much rainfall in the 2020 vintage, so we are seeing a little bit of drought The fruit bunches are smaller, more compact. The berry size is very small. I have to say,
Is it?
Yes. We even had to do some settings on the crusher just so that we can puncture the grape skin so we can get that color extraction out of it.
Wow.
And I have to say, at the moment, on areas, we are showing anything between 15 and even 20% down on yields.
That's good, though. You know, that's nature's way of keeping the pricing good for you boys.
Yeah.
If it's too voluminous and there's too much of a good thing, you can't charge enough money. And I know that I'm probably going to be shot to ribbons for this as well, but South African wine needs to be more competitively priced.
Yes. No,
I think there's some cheeky people. There's some very cheeky people who produce a 1 minute wonder or a one vintage wonder, and then their wine is 2,000 Rand a bottle or whatever. That's cheeky.
Yeah.
But I think in the category between sort of 60 and 130 Rand a bottle, we've got wines that are punching way above their weight.
No, okay. So,
They could all be 200 Rand.
yeah. And getting back to your earlier question on what made 2015 so great is that 2014, actually, we were 6% up in volume on that year. So everyone was scrambling and hiring cellar space and all that type of stuff. And then 2015 rolled around and we were down. And it was kind of also the same thing, like you said, it's nature's way of balancing it out. So the crop was so much reduced and had this just magnificent colors and acids on the wines. And that kind of just, and obviously we had a great heat that summer, so we had nice concentrated RS levels. So we had the full picture in 2015.
Yeah. And then I think that what I've tasted from 2019 is probably my favorite vintage of the decade. It's absolutely gorgeous wine from 2019. So that's what we can send out to the listeners. So drink that bottle. You are drinking a bottle of Stag's Leap Cabernet. What vintage?
2013.
Was that nice in Napa? I can't remember.
It was. Yes, it was.
There's no such thing as a horrible Stag's Leap Cab, though. So it could be from 200 AD, and it would still be nicer. It's just really nice wine. Hey.
Yeah, but I have to say,
So you.
Obviously, we're in vintage at the moment, so I have a lot of wine around me. So after that bottle, I would definitely open up a Rudeberg 1949, just to stay in the vintage.
That sounds absolutely gorgeous. And who are you going to share it with? Is there Mrs. Ush? And little baby Ushies?
No, not yet. So I'll be sharing it with a special friend, definitely.
Okay, good. James, it's such a pleasure talking to you, and I really am so sorry that I stood you up earlier at 11 o'clock today. I won't ever do it again, and I owe you big time. So when you come to Johannesburg, we can go into my cellar and you can choose something nice from there.
Oh, great. Looking forward to it.
As our last bottle, drink that bottle. We'll do a drink that bottle night.
Yes, we
in
can.
my cellar when you come to Joburg. Thank you so much. Good luck with your harvest. We'll chat again soon.
Thank you, Kerry. Have a good one.
You too.
Okay, bye.
Another production from Solid Gold Podcasts.